So we are going to talk today about PTS, the application. PTS stands for Project Tracking System. This was the name given to it when we migrated to Silverlight. And just to give a background, although we'll not be touching those, but you'll come across hearing things about it. So just to have a familiarity. Initially, it was in Sybase and Power Builder, and it was called CIP, which was Capital Improvement Projects for the CIP projects. And there was a different application called Worldview for the capacity projects, which were also called as line projects. Why I'm bringing these terms is because sometimes we still have some tentacles, although Sybase does not exist, but I'll tell you might come across some things where this might hold some significance. Then there was a stage it was migrated to PTS. It was migrated to PTS, which was Oracle and Silverlight. And then after that, lately it's been, the name remains the same, but it has been migrated to SQL Server and it's been done in Angular. So this is where the different worlds it survived in. This is to do with that. So today the one we are using is PTS in SQL Server, and the Oracle database still holds. It's live, means it's backfilled, so the data is still ideally same as what is in SQL Server and is used by other applications. And that would retire once all the applications which use the data have migrated so that they don't use the Oracle data. So that's the big project which would come up. And but PTS basically holds a project. Project basically starts here. Simon, you could throw in some clarity after I say what I say. So basically, it starts from capital planning, which plans out the projects and they decide what work has to be done and how it has to be, uh, you know, defined. And then from there, it comes to PIP, where the project is further massaged with the different information and is initiated and enters the world of PTS. Once it enters PTS, it's available to all for various purposes. The project's life cycle, where how it moves, billing against it, and anything to do with the project. It is exposed to the world of SCA via PTS. So PTS is a very significant and very important application to SCA and the most widely used application. So, but what happens in CPS, the way an analogy which I could think of is CPS, the planning goes there. So CPS is the father of PTS. PIP is the mother of PTS. And once it's initiated, it's delivered into the world of.
Oh, that's pretty funny, Monica.
But easy to remember, I would say, right?
Yes.
So then it enters the world.
What does PIP stand for? Project Interface Program, right?
Yes. So
Yeah.
that's when it comes into the world of PTS, and then it's available to all and it survives on its own. And of course, as we are all social animals, PTS also survives based on other applications and serves other applications and gets information from other applications. So this is a small, like it'll be easier to remember, I would say. So that is what it is. So not touching CPS and PIP more, other than this, the role they play for bringing a project into PTS. So the new project comes into PTS via PIP. So once a project comes in, then the life cycle of a project starts in PTS and is available to other systems for various purposes for their task or whatever they do.
Yeah, just to add to that, right? So a couple of things, right? At this stage, a project is an LLW, right? The lowest level of work. We have to be tricky with that because every department has a different concept of what a project is. It could be a design bundle, it could be a package, could be a contract, it could be a solicitation. There's a lot of different definitions. Yeah, but just to say, so right now, when it gets created, there is no design bundle, there is no package. It's just an LLW, going back to the birth. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah, not all projects are created in CPS, which is the capital planning system. There are emergency projects that are created directly in PIP. Just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah. So that part in which the LW comes from PIP That's the external API, right, Monica? The one that we support. The one that
Yes, yes. We'll come
whenever
into the
like
technicalities later,
yeah.
yes, but this,
Yeah, yes. I just want to map it in my mind. Yes.
yes, 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 you're
Okay.
right. So that is a program, that is a procedure written by us, given to them, they call it, and it gets created. So, and there's a bunch of things which get created along with it. While it comes as a a package where funding, so initial funding source, the authorized construction amount, the authorized total. Means there's some factors that come with it. So not only this LLW which comes independently, but there's some initial values that come from PIP and which are later modified or updated in PTS, available to be updated. So down the line, it won't hold the same value that it had at initiation. So all that will be covered, but just as a little briefing, I'm just saying that it comes with some certain attributes like nodes, activities, funding source, and couple of more. I don't remember much. So that is all from the procedure that gets called. Once it comes into now, uh, then it has its own. The PTS basically maintains. When it was a older system, which was called CIP and Worldview, the schedules were maintained in those various application itself. When we migrated to PTS, which was Oracle and Silverlight, there was another application called PPM, which was a scheduling application and was maintained by schedulers. That was already up and running, but at that time there was dual data entry going on because we knew we are going to migrate. So at this point, what we did is we separated it out. Now the scheduling was only done by the PPM application, and PTS would just read and display it because it made sense for all information to be displayed in PTS because users are already there and they would not like to get into another application. So the schedule we display in PTS is just a window, and the schedule is maintained in PPM, and we display the PPM schedule information, which is read directly from PPM. So this separation was done earlier. It was a consolidated application which was doing the scheduling also. Now it doesn't do scheduling, but does everything other than the scheduling of a project. That is a part of the workflow of a project. So projects are classified into, and now it holds both capacity and CIP. That was another difference because earlier there were two applications, now it's one application. And project life cycle is defined initially itself when it comes from PIP, that what kind of a life cycle or a workflow it will maintain. So those we have different workflows for a project. Not getting deep into it, just as a light overview, I would tell that we will get into deep into it, but just not directly jumping into it. So because today's session we'll just keep as a touch points, like Simon said, LLW design model. Touch points from that point of view we'll tell, but in detail what design model and how it gets created, what is together in it, what are the rules, we'll touch later when we come to that topic. So various, depending on the type of project, because as Simon said, emergency projects are the ones which have a quick action of, the job gets done quick. It doesn't need or there is no design and scoping and everything done on it. They just define a project. It has to be done in a rush. And for example, I would say there were some projects, right, when we had COVID, what was getting done, Simon? Something was getting done as emergency projects in schools. I don't remember. So they get defined and they're just to be addressed right away. So usually they just get pre-scope, that is more or less of paperwork or administrative work that is done for a project, and it jumps into construction directly and gets done and gets closed. That is the simplest form of a project where it doesn't go through much phases or it doesn't have a major workflow to it. But for example, other ones I'll just briefly describe are normal CIP, which is one of the most elaborate workflow of a project, which goes through each and every phase defined for a project. And all others are subsets of it, where they go through a subset of the activities that a normal CIP project goes through. So normal CIP, just as a touch point, I'll say, goes through pre-scope, which most of the projects go through. Then it goes through scope, then it goes through design. Now, and then it goes through RFC, bid and award, construction, and closeout. Now, this is what are the activities done on a project. Now, who does the activities? That's separated out also. Like SCA has so many departments, so every department has its own role to play in a project. So, like pre-scope is done by ODC. Once they are done, then the scope and design is done by A&E department, architecture and design department. Then RFC and bid and award is done by contracts department. And then construction management does or monitors the construction part of it. And the closeout is again more or less paperwork to close out the project. And then so this is the various departments. So it flows from one department to another. They do their work and they hand it over. So you will see. Okay, then there's another thing as status for a project. Status is nothing but is a summarized reflection of where the project stands. If you see the schedule, you can decipher it where the project stands also, but not looking at the schedule and just looking at the status attribute, we can know where the project stands. So I'll just define or touch the status element of it just to familiarize what it holds. So if you see the statuses or you have seen us talking or you yourself have dealt with it where the status is PCPSAC, things like that. So the status classification is a 3-element part where the first element stands for the department which works on it. This doesn't hold true on all cases, but let's just touch the main plain vanilla case first, then I'll tell you the various differentiations. So first one is the department which will do the task. Then the second is project controls, which is ODC was used to be called project controls. They do that work. What do? They pre-scope a project. So the second one is the activity they do. And the third one is the where it stands in terms of the activity they do. So
Hey,
it could be.
Monica, let me just share the screen a second, right?
Yes, sure.
Can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Yep.
So you guys all know, right? In the middle of the screen, right? There's current project status. That's what Monica's talking about, the SAS. So it's the station, which is the department, A&E, the activity for A&E, this is design, and the status can be cancelled, referred, on hold, inbox, whatever, right? So this is really showing you where in the life cycle the project is, right?
At a glance, yeah.
So you can see here, there's all these stations, right? There's construction management, DIT, IEH, project controls, which is sort of the intake for all the projects that come in from PIP. They go to PC first. You got DSF, A&E, F&E, yada, 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 right? So these are all the departments an LLW could end up with. And then the station, then it's activity. So in any particular station, you can have different activities. Or are these standard, Monica? I can't remember. Are these must be dependent?
No, they're
on the
dependent on like pre-scope only project control does it, right? So it pertains to that. It doesn't hold for all.
And then
design and
okay, so you have activities, right? And then you have the status. So any LLW can be in any of these statuses, right? Can be deleted, archived, whatever, right? But that's really telling you where the project is on its journey, right? So this is in A&E right now. So it's in design, basically, right? Go on, Monica.
Okay. So basically, like I said, I'm taking a plain vanilla case where a project is done by SCA and it's in some part of its life cycle or the journey. So basically, it's a normal CIP project which is being worked on by SCA. SCA means in the fourth quadrant general attributes, you see the agency, it says SCA. So this project is being done by SCA. I'll come to the other, what are the other forms or areas who do the project. But let's talk about this most common one, which is a project is done by SCA and it's a normal CIP project. That means it goes through the complete workflow of a project, the most elaborate workflow of a project. And once I cover this, the next ones will be a little simpler to understand because there'll be subsets of this. So basically, it starts its journey with project controls where it lands up and some processing is done. And once they're done, they hand it over to the next next department in the workflow. So the next department is A&E, which does the scope and design. So scope and design activity actually pertains to AE. So it'll always come with AE as the first thing because it's done by the A&E department. It's their expertise or specialization that they do that work. So next it goes there, and in statuses, okay, once say it's in project controls, the status is ideally in a normal course of journey is inbox, active, and complete or ready to forward. So inbox is when it lands into that department. So it's just landed, they've not started working on it. So there'll be no start date and there'll be no end date. They haven't started. Once they start, there'll be a start date, and that means they're working on it. So it's active, which makes sense, right? And the next is once they're done with it, it will either be ready to forward or it'll be complete. It'll be ready to forward when it has to be. It has a chain. It's in the chain where it has to go to the next department. That's when it's ready to forward because there's a exchange from one department to another. If it is at its end of its life cycle or something, it might be a complete because it doesn't have anywhere else it has to go. So for the example purposes, PCPS, inbox, or when a project gets initiated, it comes with a start date. So the project basically has the status of PCPS AC, where it says that it's been handed over to it's entered the world. It has been handed over to project controls for pre-scoping, and it started. It right away starts. So once they are done, it attains a status of ready to forward because there's another department they have to hand it over to. So whenever there's a handing over ceremony or action required, there's a ready to forward status saying that they are complete with their work and now it will be forwarded to the next department. And once it's forwarded, it goes to the next department and that initiates a change of status. So basically, if it's PCPS CX stands for ready to forward. It's just coding we have defined, and everybody is so used to that everybody just talks that and understands. But basically, it stands for ready to forward. Then when they do the action of forwarding, that's when they officially or hand it over to A&E. The status changes and it goes to AE, the next department, and the next department's first activity is scope. Once they do scope, they do design. So they are in a hierarchy. So scope, and then it becomes scope inbox. So they get it, the next department gets it, it's in the inbox, and it's up to them when they start the work, they put the date and it becomes active. So that it's not something like the other department handed it over and the clock starts ticking for them that they have started scope. There could be a delay, there could be someone not ready to start. So it comes in their inbox, they know there's a project they have to work on, they have to scope it out. When they start, which could be another after 2 days, it gets a date saying that they started, and then the status changes to AE scope active, means it's started. So this is how the whole life cycle, the status keeps changing based on this, but the basic rule is inbox, active, ready to forward or complete. And if it's ready to forward, it calls for action of forwarding, which is in the application. There's a routing project we have. We'll touch that, but I'm just as overview, I'm telling that action basically moves it to the other department. So that's when it really happens, and it's recorded that it was forwarded on that time, that date. So this is how A&E, okay, now this was a SCA project where this is the way it'll flow from project controls to A&E, the two activities in A&E, and then contract administration, and then construction management, and goes. But as Simon was showing you in the application, where it had, PC, and then it had other DIT and all that. Now, DIT is not a department in a SCA, right? And then we have NYPD, New York Police Department. That's not a department in SCA. So those are other agencies that do the projects. So if it's a SCA project, we maintain granularity of a project saying that it's being worked by which department, because that's internal. We know which department is doing what. Sometimes what happens is SCA doesn't do the project themselves, but it hands it over to the other agencies to work on. So if whatever, one or two names only I remember by name, but NYPD, DIT, and whatever the other, if somebody loads the application, I'll just tell what are the SCA stations and what is the remaining. That'll Aldo, can you bring up the application?
Yeah, 1 second. Which environment?
Any environment. You're
Okay.
not really looking at the data much. Yeah, now reset and so that the filters expand.
Hmm.
Empty, it's coming. Run.
Let me go to QA. I think that one works better. Okay, click reset.
Yes.
Okay.
Now just focus on the agency part of the filter. Okay. So you see there's SCA, the first one, which is what I explained. Go to this blue
Yeah.
bands, the
Oh,
panels.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we have SCA, which is the first one, which is what I explained, that when a project is done by SCA, our agency itself, we maintain the workflow at a granular level, saying which department is doing what, because we know it's being worked on by, it's a home product being worked on. So we know. And if you see the other names which we read out, DIT, Department of Information and Technology, DSF, Department of School Facility, DDC, Department of Design and Construction, NYP, Department, and New York Police. O2 play is out to play, TPL for, I don't remember what it stands for, but basically, other than that, whatever names you see are other agencies. So sometimes the projects are sourced out for working to other agencies. So in that case, the first element of the status would be the agency name, which would say, so you'll see statuses like DSF, pre-scope, something. So it's being done by DSF and it's in this. Now, when projects are done by other agencies, we don't maintain the same workflow that we maintain at SCA. Most of the times you'll never see a normal CIP project for another agency because we can't track or trace or keep up to a page with the exact granular activities they are doing. So we keep at a different level. So that is where the various management types come into play. So the normal CIP usually holds with SCA where we maintain the granularity. When it comes to DIT, there could be design, construction, no NTP. We maintain a subset of the activities that we maintain for the normal CIP project. That's why I took up normal CIP first, because whatever max can be tracked or traced is maintained for a normal CIP project. For outside agency projects, we don't have or we don't maintain or we don't need that much information. So it's a subset of the activities that are maintained for the normal CIP project workflow. So if you want to, like right now, the project which is highlighted is a DIT project pre-scope completed, if you see. So DIT stands for Department of Infrastructure and Technology and pre-scope completed. Now, Aldo, can you go up and click on the tab phase summary, just for you to have an idea that what does it say in red down below?
Where? Oh, here. Yeah.
Something it was saying.
Schedule information not available. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so now the schedule information is not available because this is QA environment, and I think these 4 projects were created for some sample purpose. We can look for a regular project which is DIT. You want to search so that lightly you'll have a touch point of how it doesn't hold all activities. So search, pick DIT. Okay, you can pick DIT or DSF, pick DSF maybe.
Oh,
Okay,
I-
that's fine. Department of Infrastructure and Technology is the station. Oh, you picked FNE only. That's not a good example. We don't have too many projects. Okay, reset. Pick DSF.
yes. Here.
DSF construct. Wait. Don't move around so much.
Yeah.
DSF construction, no NTP. Okay, pick any management template, one out of the three. Yeah, active. Okay, construction. Yeah, pick construction. Okay, and that's it. How many projects we have? Go down and see in the grid. Do we have a count? Yes, we have many. Okay, yeah, you could click on the first one. It's construction active. Go to the phase summary. So you see how you see this phases as phase or the activity. Now phase and activity are synonyms for each other. Sometimes we are calling it activity, some places, or I think in PPM they call it phase. That's why we have, but basically there are quite a few synonyms, which as and when I'll realize I'll keep prompting. So basically this is the activity. So basically this is a DSF project, which means it's being done by another agency, not by SC, and it's not an internal in-house project. And right now it's in the management template it follows is construction no NTP. Means it's kind of an emergency project. It's not really an emergency project, but since it's an outside agency project, we do not track all the activities. So all we do is we track the pre-scope part of element of it, and then we track that when did the construction start on it, when it did close. They at their end might be having a granular one like we have at SCA, where they might be tracking what is done, what is not done, but we just keep a track of when the construction started on it, when it ended. So that's why this has only two activities, which is pre-scope and construction. And if you go to a normal CIP project, you will have the way I told you, pre-scope, you'll have scope, you'll have design, you would have RFC, bid and award, construction, and closeout. So that is the complete set of activities. That's why I describe it first. All others would be a subset. In this case, with 2 out of the whatever 7, 8 I told apply to this management template. So basically, management template defines the work, what all would be the activities involved in the workflow of a project. So this way, agency, I think, any questions on the agency? No.
Not right now.
Yeah, means at this
So
point, even if you understand little bit what I'm
yeah,
telling, means there'll be so many times I'll come back to these topics where they'll be talked in detail. But at this point, just to touch point where it says what is the difference between SC and the others. So basically, just to summarize, SC is what is done in-house, and we track all the activities at a granular level at which department does what when, and others we track at a different level. So that defines the management template, or management template basically you could say management type, which defines the workflow, means what activities it would go through. So that's why come back to the first tab, details tab, please. So agency is who's doing it. Management type is what all activities it would go through, and agency management type, and then is template type. That I would prefer to leave it for the next, so that these two get synced, and then because
yeah.
it could get a little. It's not too much there, but I don't know if I should tell
I
now
was
or not.
about to mention that if we can leave it there so that I can
Yeah.
I can see once against the recording. Yeah.
Yes. And so when a project gets created, lightly, I'm going to touch API or whatever comes into the project when it
When you
is.
say a project, you mean an LW, right?
Yes, but the
Okay.
term project is used for design model, package, LLW, everything. It's the the names LLW, design model, and package basically are given at the various stages of its life cycle, where how it is. Okay, let me touch that itself, touch point of that. So basically, when a LLW gets created, LLW stands for, as Simon said, lowest level of work. So basically, say in a school, they are changing the roof. It's very old. And they realize the windows are also, there's leakage in it. So they would like to change the windows also. So they would create a LLW, lowest level of work for doing the roof. They'll create a lowest level of work for doing the windows in the same school. So that LLW will have the school code. These two LLWs will have the same school code, same building code. So there are two different works being done at the same building. And when this thing starts, it starts as two independent lowest level of work. Down the line, if the two things are related and they would be designed together, that okay, with this kind of a roof, this kind of windows, or if it's at first floor, we doing this kind of windows, they get designed together. They're clubbed together to make a design bundle, and A&E department works off those two LLWs together in the form of a design bundle. So it gives it a different classification or coding, gives it a design number, and they work off the design bundle. So they're working on two LLWs together, and since they want to club them together, they give it a design bundle number and they work off design bundles. Same thing when package means package is related to, package is a classification of a project at the construction level, where when they do construction, it could be the same design bundle flows into the construction activity, or it could be that they bring in LLWs from two different design bundles and they work on them together. So based on it could be a different classification of LLWs or grouping of LLWs to form a package. I'll touch this in detail later. So construction management basically forms a package and they work off the construction activity based on a package, which could be same classification as design bundle or could be different. Just keep that in mind. Details will go in later because otherwise it will get confusing. So these are the terms used for a project at various levels of its life cycle or various stages of its life cycle. Starts with an LLW, which is the lowest level of work, and gets pre-scoped independently. But when it goes to design, they could club it together. They could form a design bundle because they're used to working off design bundles or the way the application supports. They might form a design bundle with one LLW itself. They might have two together. They might have three, or they might have 50 together. So it's grouping, which could be one or many. And same for package. It's a classification of projects that they work together and the construction department, okay, at the construction activity level. So this is package design, which Simon touched also a little bit, but at this point, this is what it is. So basically, lightly, I have introduced you to where the project comes from, what is the status classification, how does that work, how it's broken up, what is an agency, what is a activity, what is a status, and what is the management type, how does it means reflect a project. So
Monica, did we cover on that management template? Sorry, I was off something else, but did we cover the schedule?
we covered the schedule, but on the surface, because I talked about management template, where I told that, how the template normal CIP is a template which defines what all activities it will go through, and that is the complete set of activities in a project's life cycle, and how others are subset. And like station, I covered that. Can you do reset and just bring the stations again? So here I said SCA is the in-house projects where we track the granularity of a project at what is done at various departments or most granular schedule. And all others, if you see, are other agencies actually, where the project is outsourced and given to the other agency to work on. So in that case, we don't go that granular. So in that case, the SAS, the first element doesn't define, because we don't go granular. The first element in the SAS, like we said for SCA project, is the department. Now, when it's an outside agency, we don't track it at their department level. So the first element in that case would be the agency. So it would be DIT, like in this case, also the first highlighted project is DIT, pre-scope completed. So that is how, means DIT is not a department in SCA. It's other agency, and for all other agency projects, we don't go granular to their department. So the first element of the status would be the agency itself. And for a SCA project, the first element would be the department because we're keeping granular schedules. So I covered that lightly on management template. I don't want to go very deep in the first session because let them gain familiarity with that. And I said phase and activity are synonyms. Like there are quite a few synonyms being used. And LLW design and package, I covered again a little bit what you said, that how, project is termed as a LLW to start with, then we use the classification of a design bundle at what stage and what department, and the classification of a package at what stage and what department. That I covered. And what else? Oh, I don't know. Play the recording. I'm just saying whatever is coming to my mind.
I think that should be enough for now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I recorded this whole thing. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to make sure I don't miss anything, but I'm gonna start documenting, I guess, like this basic, like high level knowledge. And then when we go screen by screen, I already have like some FRDs done. So then I'll update them based off of like what Monica
Yeah, but
teaches us.
Stephanie, just take off drop down values from the FRDs, and there'll have to be a lot in FRDs in terms of the validations, and they'll have to be touched again. Now, the takeaway I would say after today's session is, which would be, I would say that should be after every session. I don't know if I will be able to suggest, but at all